What issue is most important to you?
I'm extremely concerned about the border.
Illegals, they gotta go.
People are coming here seeking asylum.
Baloney. They're coming here for the freebies.
CBS News, I love it when these news, they do this all the time. They go to battleground states and they go in search of the voters that they're dying to see, the ones that support their political agenda. But some of these news outlets, like CBS News, still have this much integrity. And so whatever the camera finds, they decide to broadcast anyway. And in this case, they went to Nevada to find Kamala Harris supporters. And they had some trouble there.
We had so much fun. But what was really incredible is in every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us, we could only find one Harris supporter in every restaurant. And we left no stone unturned. I approached every single person.
I, by the way, have no doubt that they left no stone unturned. In fact, I guarantee you that they were scraping the bottom of the barrel. Please, somebody, could we talk to the busboys? Could we talk to the dishwasher? Anybody. There's got to be someone out there supporting Kamala Harris. This is as they go to diners and small town coffee shops and restaurants in Nevada. Also, can I just replay one more thing here? I really love this admission. I love it when they admit things when they don't realize they're admitting something.
Like that.
So much fun. But what was really incredible is in every single restaurant of the people willing to talk to us.
Right there. The people willing to talk to us. In other words, there were a lot of people that they went to talk to in Nevada about their presidential preferences. And they said, yeah, could we talk to you about the election? Who are you with? We're with CBS News. No, I'd really like to not. Thank you very much. I have something else to do, please. I got to go wash my hair. I love that she admitted that there were probably a ton of people who had no interest in talking to them. And I assure you, they were also not supporting Kamala Harris. So what did it look like? Well, this is fantastic. You know what? I'm going to do a quick experiment here. I'm going to play the very beginning of this segment where they talk to voters. They do a little roundtable here. And this roundtable happens to be all women. And I want you to watch it first without any sound, okay? See the women that she's talking to? This is a coffee shop. And you see the women there, the one with the hat, the one with the glasses, the African-American woman with a very colorful blouse, and the other woman sitting next to her. Now, you heard her set this up and say that they could only find one voter who supported Kamala Harris. So, as I show you this without the audio, I want you to think in your mind of these four women that they're talking to, which one is the Kamala Harris supporter? Okay? You've seen the women. Have you picked the one that you think is the Kamala Harris supporter? Right? And if you'd like, you can go ahead and put it in the comments section right now. Who do you think is the Kamala Harris supporter at the table here? Because she already told you we could only find one, right? All right. So now let's watch the segment.
What is most important to you?
I'm extremely concerned about the border.
Illegals, they gotta go.
People are coming here seeking asylum.
Baloney. They're coming here for the freebies.
When people talk about immigration, they're thinking we're saying we don't want immigrants of any kind, and that's not what people are saying. People are saying that there are people who have come here legally. Why do they get pushed aside to allow people who have not even worked one day in our country, have not paid into the system?
Okay, I have to admit something. I tricked you. None of those women were the Kamala Harris supporters. All of them were for Trump. And by the way, one other great moment there, and I don't know if you caught it, because they started talking about immigration and they talked about the people breaching the border and coming here and disrupting our nation. Did you hear that the reporter started arguing with them? They always do this. They always debate. They don't ask questions and just wait for the answers. No, they have to debate. They have to push back. They have to make their case for their candidate or for their issue. Watch her.
What issue is most important to you?
I'm extremely concerned about the border.
Illegals, they gotta go.
People are coming here seeking asylum.
People are coming here seeking asylum, says the reporter. No one at the table said that. Now, they didn't show her on camera saying it, but she's, they're seeking asylum. And I love this woman with all my heart.
Baloney.
Baloney. She's right. They're not coming here seeking asylum. This isn't about asylum. They want the jobs, they want money, they want benefits, they want a better way of life, and I can't blame them because they will find a better way of life here than in Guatemala or in Honduras. But it's not asylum. All right. So then she finally finds, I'm sorry for tricking you, but she finally finds her soy boy Kamala Harris supporter.
I took my brisket and mac and cheese with me to catch Ken Lasker with a to-go order. How closely are you watching this election?
Oh, very closely.
He was the only Harris supporter we met at lunch, even though Washoe County has historically been pretty politically split.
Wow. So that's Nevada right now. Now, it's true. It's been pretty politically split. Can I tell you something, though? Since Barack Obama became president of the United States, Nevada has consistently voted for the Democrat every single election. If you're doing the math, that's a lot of presidential elections, 4 in total. And now this time, it looks like Donald Trump has actually broken that streak. As of now, Nevada is looking super duper strong for Donald Trump, as evidenced by that segment right there. But it gets worse, because what you just saw from CBS News on the ground in Nevada is echoed across the board in the so-called blue wall battleground states. Don't believe me? Well, let's check in with CNN. And I know, everybody loves that Kornacki guy over on MSNBC with his khaki pants and his rolled up sleeves and his exciting, effervescent way he goes about his screen. But I like this guy on CNN. Why? Because it makes me happy to see CNN so upset. That's why. And they don't like the results of the latest polls as they dive deep into how shallow Kamala Harris' support is. Take a look.
From my undisclosed location. You'll never guess where I am. So take a look here. National polls in the last month, including leads within the margin of error. Look, Kamala Harris leads in pretty much every single national poll. She's led in 9 of the polls that have been released over the last month. Trump has just led in 1 national poll over the last month, and we've had 1 tie. So the fact that a national poll shows Kamala Harris ahead, not really much of a surprise because, John, pretty much all of them do.
Okay, and there's more to this, but I just want to jump in here, as I always do whenever we talk about national polls, to remind you, but you already know this, you're smart. National polls, for the most part, are meaningless. Why? Because that's not how we elect presidents here in the United States of America. The national poll has no bearing on who ends up sitting at the Oval Office in the White House, right? It's state-by-state poll. But knowing that, and knowing that Kamala Harris leads in 9 of them and Trump only leads in 1, you know that that's kind of irrelevant. But watch more, because it actually gets very interesting.
And the thing is, Harry, thanks to the founding fathers, this isn't a national election exactly, is it? Oh, now you're suddenly behind me. You keep on moving. There's Harry, still in an undisclosed location, but at least virtually behind me, making me very nervous. All right, Harry, talk to us about what the states look like, the battleground states.
Yeah, so look, this is about the Electoral College, right? So let's take a look at the average margin. Nationally, Harris is ahead in the average poll by 2.5 points. But look in those 7 key battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Harris is only ahead by 0.3 points, John. So the bottom line is, in those 7 key battleground states, it's a significantly tighter race than it is nationally, John.
So Al Gore and Hillary Clinton are calling right now, Harry, asking what the chances are that Harris could win the popular vote but lose in the Electoral College.
Okay, so basically, you note that 2.5 point lead nationally here, right? Okay, Harris's chances, if she wins the popular vote by 2 to 3 points, the chance she wins the Electoral College is only 53%. The bottom line is, once you have to get all the way north to about 3 to 4 points for Harris to have a clear chance, the clear majority chance of winning the Electoral College. If she only wins by less than 2, look at that. Only a 23% chance of winning. Right now, Harris is right now in that danger zone where basically about half the time, given that popular vote margin nationally, she would win. And so here's the situation. Chance Harris wins the popular vote at this point is about 70%. But the chance she wins the Electoral College is only about 50%. So the bottom line is, at this hour, John, there's about a 20% chance that Kamala Harris wins the popular vote, but actually loses in the Electoral College. So we could be heading towards one of these splits that we saw in 2016 and in 2000, whereby one candidate, Kamala Harris, wins in the popular vote, but loses in the Electoral College. Basically, at this hour, we're right in that sort of weird middle zone where we honestly don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, now if your brain is hurting after all of that and you're not, I don't get it. How can she be winning the popular vote by 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, but then still lose in the electoral college? How can she be winning in all of these national polls by 2 points, 2.5 points, but in the battleground states, she's only up by less than 1 point? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? These national polls are oversampling and overcounting votes in states like California and Illinois and New York. You can win by 1 vote in California, or you can win by 5 million votes in California. But as far as the Electoral College is concerned, you still get the same number of votes to be president from California. By the same token, these national polls are underreporting votes coming from Texas or from Florida or from other solid Republican states. Why? Well, because polls show and studies show and research proves out that most Republicans and conservatives are hesitant to answer phones from national pollsters, and they don't participate in those polls. Now, the science behind polls suggests that the experts are supposed to wait for those kind of discrepancies and differences, but they don't. They never do. There's another thing that you need to bear in mind. In states like Pennsylvania, where the great work of Scott Pressler and other activists on the ground to register brand new voters as Republicans in that state and in other swing states and battleground states, well, all of those new registered Republicans will not show up in any of these polls because these polls are of likely voters. And if you just registered to vote, you are not a likely voter. They qualify you when you do these polls. They ask you what your voting habits are. Did you vote in the primaries? Did you vote in the last election? Did you vote in the last presidential election? And based on how you answer those questions, that makes you a likely voter or not a likely voter. And if the poll only includes likely voters, that means if you are a first-time voter and you just registered, you won't be counted in these polls. That's why these numbers are different. That's why there are discrepancies. But there's more. There's much more. Take a look at how Donald Trump is doing electoral collegely, if that's a word. It's an adverb. In these polls as of this week.
Kamala Harris would win this election with 292 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 246. But let's just say we move the current polls and let's say the result differs by them by a single percentage point and Donald Trump is the beneficiary of it. Look at this. If Trump outperforms his current polls by just a single point, you take that Kamala Harris win and look at this. Donald Trump gets 287 electoral votes because the bottom line is Pennsylvania would flip up here, and you would also get this flip out in Nevada over here. And that, my friends, is what we're talking about. We are talking about the closest campaign in a generation where a single point could make all the difference in the world. John, this is a truly exciting race right now where any slight movement can make all the difference.
All right, now let me just translate that quickly if you missed it. If the election were held today, according to these polls, Kamala Harris wins narrowly in the Electoral College. But if Donald Trump's polls are 1 point off, if he outperforms the polls by 1 point, he wins the presidency. Now, there's two ways to look at that. We've got 50 days until Election Day, roughly. That means if Donald Trump improves his position by just 1 percentage point, he wins. There's another way to look at it, though, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Remember this, though, because there's another very important data point about Kamala Harris and how she is polling as of now against Donald Trump at this stage in the election, because we've got apples to apples to apples to look at. This is not the first time Donald Trump has run for president. This is the third time. So how is Kamala Harris doing against Donald Trump right now compared to how Joe Biden did and compared to how Hillary Clinton did?
Worst polling Democrat against Donald Trump in history on national polls. No one is performing worse than her. No one's performing worse than her among blacks, among Hispanics, the worst performing Democrat in modern history among those demographics, worst performing polling wise among Jews. She is losing key factions of the Democratic base. Muslim voters, she's at under 50, she's at 52% in the latest CAIR poll among black Muslims. She is not doing well.
She is the worst performing Democrat running for president in recent history, and certainly against Donald Trump. You want to see how that breaks out? Because remember now, I just told you that if Donald Trump outperforms his polls by 1 point, it's over. 1 percentage point. And remember, I told you there's two ways to look at that. The first is he can improve his position by 1 point between now and Election Day. But there's another way. And frankly, a more realistic way of looking at it, a more fact-based way of looking at it, a more understandable way of looking at it. What if the polls are wrong? What if the polls right now that you're seeing are undercounting Trump voters? What if Donald Trump's performance on Election Day or election season, since some states actually start voting as early as this Friday, what if Donald Trump actually does much better than current polling suggests he will do? Remember, all he needs is 1 percentage point difference in where he sits right now and what he actually gets on Election Day. Take a look at this graphic. This is from Real Clear Politics. If you look all the way over on the right, you'll see 2016. It shows how Hillary Clinton polled on Election Day against Donald Trump. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Strike that. It shows how Hillary Clinton polled at this time, mid-September, against Donald Trump. The middle column shows how Joe Biden polled at this time, September 16th, against Donald Trump. And then in the closest column, you'll see Kamala Harris. We'll start with the national polls. Hillary Clinton was at 1.5 in 2016. That's comparable to where Kamala Harris is right now. Joe Biden was at 5.9. If you look at Wisconsin, Hillary polled at 4.0. Donald Trump won Wisconsin. But at this time in 2016, Hillary Clinton was up by 4. Joe Biden was up by 6.7. And he only ended up being declared the winner of Wisconsin by less than half a percentage point. Right now, Kamala Harris is sitting at 1.2 in Wisconsin. On down the line, Pennsylvania, Hillary was at 6.2 at this time. She lost. Joe Biden, 4.3. Again, it was within a percentage point. Kamala Harris is basically dead even in Pennsylvania. Look at Ohio. Trump was winning. One of the few states he was winning, but by a hair. Going into election night, we thought Ohio was going to be a toss-up. He won it handily. Joe Biden was up by 2.4 points, and Trump ended up winning easily in Ohio. Right now, Trump is winning Ohio by 9 points. Look at Michigan. Hillary was up by 5.2 at this time, and Trump won Michigan. Biden was up by 4.8. Right now, Kamala Harris, about half a percentage point in Michigan. Do you see the trend I'm pointing out for you? Kamala Harris, state by state by state by state, is way underperforming Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. And if you look at the past precedent of how Donald Trump is consistently underrepresented in these polls at this time, I mean, now maybe the polls have all changed. Maybe they've fixed their methodology. Maybe they're much better, but they certainly weren't in 2020 to 2016, right? I mean, look at these margins of victory Joe Biden anticipated having in mid-September. Arizona. Now, Biden did end up winning that state eventually, but as of now, he was up by 4.3, right? That ended up being, again, a margin of error. I think it was a half a percentage point in Arizona. I mean, we still don't have a full accounting of Maricopa County. Right now, Trump is ahead in Arizona by 1.3 points. Nevada was razor thin. Clinton ended up winning. That's the one state that she outperformed where she was in the polls at this point. Biden was up by 6 points. That ended up being, I think, a 1 point margin of victory. Kamala Harris barely up by 1 point. North Carolina was Clinton up by half a point, Biden up by half a point. Trump ended up winning, going away in those states in North Carolina by a couple of percentage points, and he's winning by, according to these polls, half a percentage point. Georgia, we know how that worked out. Trump was up by 4.2. He won. Against Joe Biden, it shows that he was up by 1.3, and the way Georgia ended up, Biden barely eked out the victory there. Right now, Trump is ahead by 0.3. And in Florida, well, again, it was a toss-up. People went in on election night in 2016 thinking it was going to be a nail-biter. Trump at this time, 8 years ago, was up by only 0.7. He ended up winning easily. 4 years ago, Florida actually showed a lead for Joe Biden, but that disappeared on election night about 2 hours after the polls closed. And right now, Trump is showing a commanding 6-point lead. My point is this. if it's true that all Donald Trump has to do is outperform where he sits in the polls right now by just 1 percentage point, it's kind of a no-brainer. Not only is he going to improve his position in the polls between now and Election Day, but I think that based on the past performance of these polls across the board nationally, as well as in all the states we just broke down, the Trump vote, the real vote, the actual votes that will show up on Election Day are not even close to being represented properly and accurately in these polls. 1 percentage point, that actually seems like easy money.